Do you want Detroit sports talk done right? Yeah! If you want it, you got it. It's Detroit sports talk with attitude. It's the Knee Jerks with Eno and Big Al.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like at this time to introduce to you one of the finest running backs in the United States of America, and our number one pick, Barry Sanders.
Here's Isaiah. Let's see what we got. All the way up. Go!
We might not be in your car or on your transistor radio, but we're bringing you the best of Detroit sports past, present, and future. It's time for the Knee Jerks with two guys who know Detroit sports. Here's Greg Eno and Al Beaton.
It's July 14th, 2021, the day after the All-Star Game. That also means it's time for the Knee Jerks, Detroit Sports Talk with Eno and Big Al. I'm the Big Al of the equation, Al Beaton, longtime Detroit-based podcaster and blogger. And if I sound a little out of sorts, it's because we're recording this at a weird time of day, thanks to my co-host, the man who knows a lot of things about a lot of things, and is now a member of the Mercedes-Benz cult. And that would be Greg Eno of numerous places online. Greg, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Al? Yes, I took ownership of my first Benz the other day, and I'm pleased as punch. You're lucky I'm not doing this show from the car. That's how much I like it. But anyway, I am Greg Eno from, as Al mentioned, my WordPress Out of Bounds blog. You can check that out every week. Pretty much have something new there. You can follow me on Twitter at Greg Eno, and follow the Knee Jerks on Twitter at the Knee Jerks. We are coming to you, as Al said, on July 14th. We missed our late June taping.
That was my fault because I ended up going up north a few days early. We were up there for 10 days, and I wasn't exactly prepared for it. Linda had some extra time off. They said, let's go. So, because I can get packed in 15 minutes. I'm so used to what I need to take up there. So, and then obviously Greg has stuff going on this end this week. So now it's his turn to postpone the show. So, but we are recording this week. So.
We are.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you are meeting with one of our favorite guests this week, aren't you?
Well, actually, I was going to meet with Bob Page. He was in town. He's in Michigan, but we couldn't. The place we wanted to meet up is not open on the weekdays, believe it or not. So we decided we'll scrap. He's going to come back in September. We'll do it then. So,
I can see the disappointment in your face right now.
Bob's out of town. Yeah, I would have liked to make.
Yeah, he's a hard man to pin down. Because he.
Yeah.
But actually, probably be better. Hopefully, things will be better in September anyway. Things still feel a little dicey at times.
Yeah. So. He was complaining that Michigan wasn't as open as he thought it was, and he said, "If I had known all this, I wouldn't have made the trek up here because he drove from Florida." So
I don't know if
anyway,
but I think it is that. It's the staffing issues more than anything else. We're
right. Yeah, that's
open.
True.
It's just that's
true.
They're still trying to figure out. A lot of people have, I think, reevaluated their careers or where they want to do with themselves, or they're decided I'm not going to work my ass off for low wages. I'm going to find a different career. And here we are now. And this is why a pizzeria that you wanted to go to is not open on a weekday night. That's a whole nother discussion, and we have other things to talk about. But I think you guys know where we fall on this side of this of the topic anyway. But I guess anything else we need to cover before we get down to the nuts and bolts of the podcast?
No, we're just gonna before we get into the menu, we're just gonna hit a couple of topics today. But before we do that, we're gonna play a game we like to call "Whose Birthday Is It, Maestro?"
We baked you a birthday cake. If you get it to me, and you moan and groan and woe, don't forget we told you so. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Everybody knows how we play this game by now. We'll give Al a clue or two or three of an individual whose birthday it is today in the world of sports. And if Al could correctly guess that person within the first two clues, he'll win a handsome gift set of Brut by Fabergé. So
it'll go with my Menon, my Old Spice, my High Karate, and
I think we did High Karate on this show.
Yes, we did before. Actually. Yeah. So I like the old stuff. When I was younger, I would spend big money on colognes and aftershaves and stuff.
Yeah.
And now my go-tos are stuff like the barbershop type stuff, like the Brut and the the men in the Old Spice. And,
right.
And the girlfriend seems to think I smell great with that stuff, rather than dropping $150 on Halston or some damn thing. So. Exactly. Anyway, fire away.
So this person, Al, was born on this date in 1932, and he's still with us. He's 89 years old today, right. So happy birthday to this individual. He made his name in a lot of different realms outside of the sport after he retired, but as an active player in the world of football, professional football. Mm-hmm. He was a defensive player and part of a iconic defensive unit, I will say that, in the National Football League. And he also eventually became a Protestant minister.
Oh. Well, if you're talking iconic, okay, you said he was born in 1932, right? Right. Which would put him in the 50s. Because, when I think of iconic defenses, I think of the 70s stuff. Because they had great nicknames back then,
mm-hmm.
like the...
Well, this was a nickname as well. This was a nickname defense. Yes, it was. Huh. Defensive unit.
And it would have been in the 50s.
Well, 50s and 60s. His career overlapped. 55 to 66.
How about... What became a minister, you said, right? How about Rosie Greer?
Absolutely. Rosie Greer, 89 years old.
Holy crap, I got that right?
Yeah, you sure did. Good for you.
There's a fearsome foursome. There we go.
Yep.
The second fearsome foursome, by the way.
He went to, the Lions had one as well. He went to Penn State, which I didn't know. I never really knew where Rosie Greer went to college. I never really thought about it. But he went to Penn State, played 8 years with the Giants, and then finished up 4 years with the Rams. And was the minister thing. Also did needlepoint, which was unusual for him.
I remember him doing a lot of acting in the 70s.
And also was present at RFK's assassination. He was the one that grabbed the gun from Sirhan.
Bingo.
And he was the one who took care of Sirhan, and it's actually probably saved Sirhan's life, because he said, according to Rosie's account of the thing, is that he got the gun away from Sirhan because the gun was pointed at George Plimpton. Plimpton was there, Rayford Johnson, and Greer. Rosie was afraid Plimpton was going to get shot. He got the gun away from Sirhan, and he kept people away from Sirhan who wanted to just rip this guy to shreds, as you can imagine. So he said, I will not allow any more violence, and he made sure Sirhan survived. Yeah. So that was Rosie Greer in 1968. But anyway, so good job there. You get the Brute by Fabergé.
Going right next to the High Karate.
That's right. Good job.
Yes, good job. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sometimes I even impress myself pulling these out of my rear. So, all right. With that, we're like Greg mentioned, we don't have a lot of topics on the docket today because, as Greg actually said this in the while we were talking before we started to record, is that we are kind of in a weird place right now because only sport going on is baseball, and even that's kind of in its mid-season hiatus right now. Everything else is just waiting for the drafts. The Lions are waiting. Don't start training camp for about 3 weeks probably. I can't believe we're even talking about training camp nearly being upon us. Where the hell does summer go already? Right. But there should be enough to talk about because obviously the big news we missed talking about because I decided to go drink up north. Was the Pistons winning the first pick in the draft. And then obviously we have the Tigers had their draft, took part in the MLB draft this week. And they're also we're at a little past the midpoint, so we can talk about where they stand right now as a team. Because actually they have not played that badly. And I know you've been harping on this, Greg, about this is giving us an idea of what they need to do this offseason. Because they're actually starting to look like a team with a pulse, which is kind of a shocker. So, but why don't we start with the Pistons, because that really was the topic du jour that we kind of missed out on a couple weeks ago. And apparently, Greg, the tank worked. I'm not a fan of tanking. No, it bothers me that the rules are set up currently that the best way to quickly improve your team in certain sports, specifically, for the most part, is basketball and baseball, that the quickest way to get your team better is to essentially give up, wave the white flag, and finish at the bottom of the league and hope you get a very, very high draft pick when you have and hopefully at that point you have a chance at a generational or at the very least an all-star caliber player. Well, the Pistons apparently tanked correctly. They wrapped up the season at 20-52. They had the second worst record in the NBA. They had, I believe, along with, I think, Houston, I forgot the other team, that they had the best odds of getting the first overall pick, even though those odds, Greg, were only 14%. The highest odds were they were going to get the fifth or sixth picks. I think that was around 25% or so. But somehow, after years of Detroit teams literally having the worst luck in draft lotteries, look at what's happened to the Wings in the past or the Pistons over the past few years who were stuck in purgatory. The ping pong balls fell in their favor, and they landed the number one selection. The first time the Pistons have had the top pick since 1970, when they did a pretty good job, and they drafted the Hall of Fame center Bob Lanier out of St. Bonaventure. And since then, they've had a handful of really high picks. There was Isaiah Thomas, I think, was number 2. Grant Hill was number 3. But the last time they had a pick this high was obviously the infamous Darko Milicic pick in 2004 at number 2. And we all know how that didn't work out. So here we are, Greg. Now all the talk is about Cade Cunningham, and obviously there's the rumors are starting to fly because there's nothing else to talk about, and that the Pistons have options open. They're willing to talk about a trade, blah blah blah. I guess first off, where do you fall on all this on tanking and that it actually supposedly worked, and maybe where do Pistons go from here?
First of all, I don't even know. The whole tanking thing, we've talked about this before. Yeah. The whole tanking thing, to me, is disingenuous. I don't think anyone who plays professional sports goes out there to lose.
Yeah,
I just don't think that.
Players and coaches, I agree.
I think what tanking should mean, and it's still I don't like the word. I'm not crazy about the word, but I think in the broader sense, it means that you realize that your roster's not obviously competitive enough to be a playoff contender, and you're not necessarily going to coach or make transactions as if you were a contender. You have to understand what your place is in the league, that you're a bottom feeder, and you're going to lose a lot of games no matter what you do with your roster, and it has nothing to do with the effort of the players. So I think that's what grinds me about this whole that word, is that it gives the impression, and I think some people really believe this, that players go out there and are trying to lose basketball games, and that's not the case.
Yeah, you're completely right about that. That's not the case. Yeah.
That does not.
This is all on ownership and actually general manager.
I can't imagine. Yes. I can't imagine if that were really true. It's not, but if that were really true, the NBA would have such a credibility issue on their hands, and would have such they would have no. What do you do with that? Especially when you've got money being spent that people are betting on games and so forth. I mean, to cover the spread, the whole thing is just has a very sinister undertone. And I don't care for the word, and I especially don't like the notion that you go out there and you try to lose games. I don't buy that. Now, having said all that, the thing of it was nice, obviously, to see the Pistons, and any Detroit team for that matter, finally get some draft luck when it comes to a lottery situation, and take that, like you said, that 14-15% chance that they had going in mathematically, and indeed getting the number one pick. So now, what do you do with it? That's the thing. You mentioned briefly. You mentioned trades. Cade Cunningham does indeed appear to be the consensus pick, although maybe not quite the slam dunk as some of the other number one overall picks we've seen. There's still a chance that the Pistons will indeed make a trade. I know that it's been reported that they really like this Jaylen Green kid, and to the point where they may, although I still don't think they'll draft him. They're really high on him. Yeah, obviously Cunningham is in the crosshairs as well. I think they'll stay. I think they'll stay with Cunningham. I think he just offers so much. He's the perfect type of player for today's NBA. A swingman with a big wingspan.
Yeah, he can guard like 4 positions.
He can guard,
maybe 5. Yeah.
Right. They say he's got incredible basketball IQ, high IQ on the floor. He sees the floor real well, better than a lot of people they've seen come through at his age. He's got so much going for him. His shooting ability, which can only get better. And a lot of the stuff, frankly, that he's already so good at can only get better. Yeah. So I think, it's one of those things. I know it's tempting to look at other options. It's tempting to maybe trade down, get still a very good player, and then accumulate other assets. I understand how tempting that might be. But I just feel like the safest thing to do, not just safe, but the smartest thing to do, frankly, is to draft Cunningham. Yeah. It's also been reported that Cunningham says he will only visit the Pistons. Because that's where he wants to go. He said before the draft he will only visit the team that gets the number 1 pick. That's what he said. Right. Now in this case it's the Pistons, so that's the only team that's what he said anyway. That's what he's going to do. So, but again, it's been reported by some other NBA observers that the Pistons really like Green. Now a lot of this could be smokescreen stuff. I don't know. But the Pistons are sitting obviously in a very good position. They can pretty much do whatever they want. There's no pressure on them right now. I mean, there's still a couple weeks to go before the draft even takes place, but I think that they'll stick with. I really do believe that they'll stick with Cunningham. It's not because of the Darko thing either. I think the Darko thing was a reach. Yeah. If they did draft anybody other than if they drafted for Mobley or Green or Suggs, it wouldn't be a reach necessarily. It would be a little bit of a surprise. But it wouldn't be the reach that Darko was. That was a I'm going to be the smartest guy in the room pick. That was a complete overthink by Dumars. But I think here, they'll stay pat. They'll stand pat at number 1 with Cunningham.
Yeah. And just to kind of circle back to the tanking, I found myself actively rooting against the 76ers in the playoffs because they took the tanking, obviously as they called it, the process, to the absolute extreme by putting essentially a rec league team on the floor for about, 3 seasons and trading away every single valuable piece they had. And out of it, obviously they were able to build a playoff team, but they only ended up out of all the arrows they had. They had to throw at the draft because of the trades and because of finishing so badly for 3 straight seasons. They ended up with 1 MVP caliber player. And they ended up with a completely broken point guard who they're trying to actively trade, and all the rest of the Joel Embiid obviously is the MVP candidate, and then Ben Simmons was absolutely broken, looked completely broken in the playoffs, and now they're actively trying to trade him. And the reason they became a playoff team is because they made some smart free agent signings and trades, and not necessarily because of their drafting. So there are obviously numerous ways to build a team, and we've seen that in what's going on in the finals right now, Greg, with Phoenix and Milwaukee, who essentially are mid-market teams. Not so much Phoenix, but Milwaukee specifically, and who are able to build teams around. They found mid-pack first-round draft picks who became superstars, obviously. So there are more ways to build a team than just the Sixers way, the process, and thank God the process is I think the flaws have been shown in that strategy. But when you're saying that they're, as we've mentioned, that the Pistons are interested in, or at least I don't know if they're interested or they're throwing a smoke screen or what when it comes to specifically Jaylen Green, who is, I think, has a higher ceiling as a scorer probably than Cunningham, but maybe also has a far lower floor than Cunningham. I guess the question is, I think Troy Weaver, if he decides that Cunningham is not his guy, he's probably earned at least some of the benefit of the doubt because of what he pulled off this past year, essentially stripping a Pistons team down to the studs in one offseason. And then he drafted 4 players who ended up all in the rotation. One of them a second-round pick who played a ton, and 2 of them that became NBA All-Rookie team members in Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart, who are both picked outside the lottery. And their lottery pick, got hurt, but is still highly thought of in Hayes. So. Yeah. if Troy Weaver just thinks that, well, Cunningham may not be the guy he is, and maybe I want Jaylen Green or Evan Mobley at number 1, or actually would say, if he does that, he's going to trade. If he thinks that Cunningham is not the guy, he's going to trade out of number 1. And there's a lot of talk that Houston is desperate for Cunningham, and they're number 2. So the Pistons could trade out of number 1, trade Houston's number 2, probably get 2 or 3 first-round draft picks in the exchange, and still get the guy they want. And I think if that's kind of an outlier. That's probably, I won't say wishful thinking, but I think has a low percentage of happening. But if it does, I think Troy Weaver has kind of earned the benefit of the doubt because of what he's done so far. He's proven that he's able to find talent lower in the draft. So I guess because I would hate to see how this fan base is going to react, the Pistons fan base, if they decide not to take Cunningham, and trade out of it or however it goes down. And I have a feeling they would explode in anger the same way the Tigers fan base did, as we'll talk about later, did in the first when the Tigers took a high school pitcher with 3rd overall in the MLB draft. So it's going to be. I can't the draft. We're going to hear a lot about scenarios. We're going to see a lot of smoke screens. We're going to hear a lot of Weaver could trade up, and we've had all kinds of ridiculous scenarios thrown out there. Teams that want to trade up for Cunningham, but I will say this though: I think Weaver has earned the benefit of the doubt, and if he does decide Cunningham is not the guy, I'm not going to lose my mind over it because he's proven that I think he knows what he's doing, and more than any of us, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I think, though, that when you have the number 1 overall pick and don't use it, that can follow you in a negative way because I understand that doesn't mean they're not going to get a good player if they don't use it. If they do indeed trade it, it's not like it's Cunningham and everybody else stinks. I understand that too. But when you have a number 1 overall pick, and you decide that you're going to be a little bit cute, and acquire more assets. Because here's the thing, Al, in the NBA, it doesn't take. I was looking at the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns 2 years ago won 19 games. Yeah, 19 games 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Last year they were 34-39, and all of a sudden here they are now. They get Chris Paul and some other people, and now they're leading in the NBA Finals 2-1. Right. The Bucks, who you referenced, have been on this path of upward trajectory for about 4 or 5 years now. Right. Okay, it's taken them a little bit longer than it's taken the Suns, but you're right; they're both mid-market, if not even small market teams. Right. So it doesn't take. Sometimes it doesn't take much to change the fortunes of any given team. So if you trade, for example, the Rockets, and trade down, and like you said, they've got the number 2, and you get their number 2 pick overall, and some other people. Okay, fine, but what if the Rockets all of a sudden do a flip-the-roo, and all of a sudden those number 1 picks that you got from them or whatever, you're drafting 29th and 30th. Mm-hmm. So where does that get you at the same time? So it's not like the NFL where it takes sometimes teams a little bit longer to rise from the ashes. I'm just scared to trade a number 1 overall with a team that could then take that number 1 overall and become a 45-win team, and all of a sudden that number 1 pick that I've gotten for the future doesn't look so good anymore. And now it doesn't look good in another trade. If I want to try to flip it to somebody else, I don't want that pick that much. So I think I understand what you're saying about Weaver having a little bit of cash, but I don't know if he has that much, frankly. I think a lot of people might look at him and say, well, he did get a little luck, which you have to do. You have to get lucky, no question about it. Stewart and Bay, yes, overperformed, maybe, sure, but let's see it for a couple. Let's see it is it sustainable? Yeah. I mean, will these kids be stars in the league, or are they flashes in the pan? We don't know. But if you have Cunningham and a healthy Hayes, Bay, Stewart, Jeremy Grant, all of a sudden now you've got a 5-man starting unit, which isn't so bad. Right. And, you can do some things. You can Cunningham can run the point if you want to put Hayes on the off guard position. Right. There's a lot of different things that that Dwayne Casey as a coach can do just by virtue of adding Cunningham to the roster. It opens up so many different possibilities for somebody like Casey, who's been around the block, who knows how to mix and match and loves that kind of stuff. So I think that, if anybody wants Cade Cunningham as bad as anyone, it's probably Dwayne Casey, because he can do so much with. Not that he can't do stuff with the other guys, but Cunningham is just maybe he's not generational. I mean, I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah,
but he can do a lot of things very well, and he's only 19 years old.
Yeah, and if you saw the reaction video of Dwayne Casey on draft night, he pretty much lost his mind, knowing that he's that close to getting the consensus best player in the draft, and Casey does have a reputation for being able to develop young players. I mean, we saw this past offseason, and we saw it with Toronto. He just has, obviously, the reputation of not being able to get over the hump. But the way this team is built, he won't be the guy that will get this team over the hump. He's probably, another 3 seasons, and he's being bumped up to the front office. But, as you said, if you're going to be cute, if you're going to make a smartest guy in the room move, you sure as hell better be the smartest guy in the room.
Exactly.
And that's what trading out of number 1 would be, even if it means just going to number 2. If you decide you don't want Cade Cunningham, you sure as hell better be right that if you take Green, Mobley, Suggs, whoever it might be, that they are going to be a face of the franchise, better player than Cade Cunningham. And from everything we've heard, that's probably not the case. Cunningham is as you mentioned, he's a prototypical NBA player at this point. Physically, the way he can defend, the way he plays the game. He's essentially a point guard, but he can be a positionless player because he can play all over the court. And that's where the NBA is going to. And if you look at some of the players that Troy Weaver likes, that's the kind of guy he loves. They're in that 6'7" to 6'10" range with wingspans about 8 foot of guys 8 foot tall who can defend 4 and 5 positions and can play multiple positions. That's essentially what the NBA has gone to now. It's a far more fluid positional wise. I mean, you're not pegged as you are a number 5. You're going to play in this paint, and that's all you do. You're a power forward. And you just do power forward things, and that's it. That is pretty much, for the most part, has gone out the window. That's why you see guys like Andre Drummond, who would be, all world players 25 years ago, is sitting on the bench in the playoffs now. Yep. Because his skill set, I'm not even going to get into his mental makeup or anything like that, but his skill set just it no longer fits the way today's game is played. You have to be able to play inside and out. You need to be able to shoot from more than inside the paint if you're a big guy. And if you're going to play on the wings, you're going to play in the backcourt, you have to be able to handle the ball and be able to get your shot off. Right. So Cunningham seemed to check all those boxes. So as you put it, if you get too cute, getting too cute, and you end up with like the Los Angeles Angels, who took 20 pitchers in the MLB draft this weekend. That seems a little out of the box. There's out of the box, and then there's too cute. That doesn't seem like a good idea. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. So, but if there's one GM other than Steve Yzerman, I do have confidence right now. It's definitely Troy Weaver, because this past year could not have gone any better for him, between being able to get the free agent he targeted in Jeremy Grant, for his draft picks to nail his draft picks, essentially nail his draft picks when he was being called out, especially for the Isaiah Stewart draft pick, where there's who drafts a center in the first round anymore? And he found a guy who looks like he's going to be the heart and soul of this team, a mini Ben Wallace, so to speak. And all his picks ended up getting significant playing time. And then they also got the first pick in the draft. I mean, Troy Weaver, I don't know what his horoscope said, but I'd like to have the same one, because he had as good of a first year as a GM I think we've ever seen in Detroit.
Yeah, for sure. Again, you got to get a little lucky. And he did. The one that the negative, of course, was Killian Hayes got hurt, but you can't. What are you going to do about that? Right. Dwayne Casey said that by the end of the season, even after he had missed all that time, Hayes his performance had dwindled a little bit. Not dwindle, it's a strong word maybe, but his defense, especially, Casey said, suffered the longer the season went on. He was that rookie wall thing.
Right.
He said his defense wasn't quite the type of defense he was playing in the first half before he got hurt. But you're right about Weaver. I mean, he also did, also little other moves like Plumlee, signing Mason Plumlee.
Yeah, I love Mason Plumlee. I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah, guys like that, Saban Lee. I mean, he really did hit on, and that's which is what you have to do, of course, is hit on those other things as well. Grant is, about to break out. He's in the
he's on the USA Olympic team.
He's only 26 years old. All these guys are young, and Grant's been in the league seems like forever.
Right.
But he's only 26 as he came in the league so young. Mm-hmm. And you look at his trajectory; it's been gradually going upward, and now he's set to be at the prime of his career. And these other people we talked about are all young, but you have to have older guys, like a Plumlee, to kind of that you need those kind of role players.
Well,
those veteran guys.
with Philadelphia, they had no one to show the young guys how the NBA works.
Right.
And you need that. You just can't throw 15 first-year players out on the court, on your roster.
Right.
You just can't do that. And we saw that. And for Philadelphia, they built a playoff team, but they only built a playoff team after they started signing free agents and making trades, to get veterans. So,
right.
But, God damn, there's something else I was going to bring up about this. Oh, fuck. Pardon me for cursing there. But, yeah, it's... this is where I was going to go, because you had brought up Jeremy Grant, and we see some people in the fan base, especially online, because like you look at NBA Twitter, they're always full of cranks, or they always say, "Well, we need to do more." And you see, well, maybe it's time to trade Jeremy Grant because he looks like now he's actually on an undervalued contract. He's under contract for 3 years. He's had a breakout season, and that's when I get to the point where. If you draft Cade Cunningham, that accelerates your rebuild. Essentially, you need to start adding assets, not getting rid of your best assets for possibly more draft picks. The thing is, a guy like Jeremy Grant, a good team is going to want him. And as you mentioned, like if the Pistons made a trade and you end up with lower first round picks, then why? You hope to draft a guy who's as good as Jeremy Grant. So, that's where I think the fans start overthinking things a bit. You can't continue to flip players. You can't continue, we're going to sign them and then flip them. We're going to sign them and flip them.
Right.
I mean, look how well that worked out for the Tigers. It didn't.
Right.
I think they may hit on one or two of these free agents that they signed. And Grant's a better player than the type of players the Tigers were targeting.
Right.
Yeah, but you get to number 1 overall pick, and if he's believed to be at the very worst a all-NBA type talent, you have to start acquiring good assets. You can't continue to dismantle. You have to start looking at, especially maybe not this season because of they still are on the hook for that for a significant portion of Blake Griffin's contract. But next offseason, after this coming year, that's when you need to start finding, we need to find a running mate for Cade Cunningham. Or, we need to find those extra building blocks to go with the 5 guys we have right now. Because, you see, if you don't do that, then you get into a Zion Williamson situation in New Orleans where they're already talking about he wants out. And how long has he been there? 3 years? Something like that?
And he's already played for a million coaches.
Exactly, because they just got rid of Stan Van Gundy.
And the other thing too, Al, is when you're drafting number 1 overall, especially for a team like the Pistons who haven't done that forever, you're drafting not only, like you said, not only are you accelerating, which I think is a big time understatement to say you're accelerating the rebuild. You are essentially drafting the face of the franchise. I mean, that ought to be, Zion Williamson aside, number 1 overall pick ought to be your face for the next 5, 6, 7, who knows how many years, forever maybe. I mean, that is the kind of player that you are drafting when you draft number 1 overall. It's not only what can he do on the basketball court. It's also how do you market it? How do you he is the Pistons. There should be big, giant murals of him on buildings in Detroit. I mean, that kind of thing. These players,
there's already talk that the Pistons season tickets are selling crazy right now.
There should be Cade Cunningham jerseys all over the city. People wearing Cade Cunningham as soon as they pick him, as soon as he gets a number. I'm sure the very next day the marketing department will come out with jerseys all over town with Cunningham's name and number on them, and they're going to get snatched up. I mean, and like I said, from a marketing standpoint, if you're working in the marketing department for the Pistons, this is another godsend because you've tried. It's hard to make guys like Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose the face of the franchise when they're ancient and their better days are behind them.
Right.
Now you can start fresh with a brand new kid, 19 years old. We haven't seen anything like this in Detroit, especially in the basketball world, for a very, very long time. All due respect to Killian Hayes, he didn't really move the meter that much. Now you've got and the other two, Alex. This is actually good for Hayes.
Right.
Now he can kind of develop under the shadow. Let's face it. Everybody's going to be under the shadow of Cunningham. Even Jeremy Grant. Everybody's going to be under the shadow of Cunningham. So this gives Killian Hayes now a chance to kind of, not have to be the guy that is the fulcrum. It's going to be Cunningham, and Hayes can kind of. I think it's going to help him too from a pure basketball sense on the floor, and also just those intangibles off the floor. Where he's Cunningham's. If I'm Hayes, I'm willing to be, the Scottie Pippen to Cade Cunningham's Michael Jordan, if you will. I'm willing to be that, and not be the guy that I'll be a complimentary piece. I'm sure. He's fine with that. Hayes is
right,
and so like I said, again, it gives Casey all sorts of things he can do, mix and match, which is, as you know, that's the NBA now. Anyway, there's really no dedicated 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Anyway, you look at the floor at any given time and not even really know who's playing center, for example, or who's even playing point guard or shooting guard. It's not like it used to be in the old days. So this is a great opportunity for not just the team, but the organization as a whole and the fan base and everything. That's why I think there's too much riding on this, Al, to even think about doing anything other than just drafting Cunningham. Here's the thing. Yeah. I'm not gonna beat myself up in 5 years if the guy that I drafted number 1, who was the consensus number 1, ends up being a bust. He's not going to be a bust, but I'm just saying I can live with that. I'll live with that. What I can't live with is to not draft him, see him win 1 million MVPs and championships with another organization, and I'm asking myself, what if I had? I don't want to ask that question. That's what I don't want to ask myself. I'll draft him number 1. Yeah. It's kind of like when you don't want certain players to beat you. I'll walk Miguel Cabrera in his prime to face somebody else, and if that guy beats me, well then God bless him. Yeah. But if I stick with pitching to Cabrera and he tags me for a 3-run home run to beat me, shame on me for putting myself in that position. So it's the same thing. I'll live with, if I pick a kid number 1 overall who's the consensus overall number 1 pick, and he ends up being not what we thought he was going to be, well, I can live with myself because everybody else thought I'm not going to be dumb for doing that because everybody else would have done the same thing. Yeah. But if I trade that pick, and I'm 3 years later saying, what if I had kept? What would we be with Cunningham? That's where that's how people lose their jobs. Right. That's how GMs lose their jobs, and frankly, may not get another job after that. So I think for everybody involved, the best thing to do, everybody involved, is to pick Cunningham.
Yeah. It's I think that's a good way to wrap up the discussion. Just take Cunningham. And we still got a couple weeks of the draft, and so we're going to get at least a few more weeks of the, what if this happens, or maybe so-and-so is moving up in the draft, and oh, God, it's just like every other
it's like what you said. It's like, you said it perfectly as well. You said if you're going to be the smartest guy in the room, then you better be the smartest guy in the room.
All right. With our advice to Troy Weaver out of the way, we need to talk about what's going on for the Detroit Tigers. So they are at the All-Star break. Actually, the All-Star game was last night, as a matter of fact. Boring as always. I had it on in the background, and it is what it is. Honestly, the first round of the Home Run Derby is far more entertaining at this point than the All-Star game is. I mean, watching guys hit 500-foot bombs, if you ask me, that's always entertaining. But here we are. We're at the break, and part of the All-Star break now, Greg, is that the MLB draft is now, and Major League Baseball is starting to smarten up a little bit about marketing themselves, and that everybody's paying attention to baseball with the All-Star game. Why don't we have the draft at the same time and make it more like the NBA's or the NFL draft? Obviously, it's never going to be quite the same because, as we'll get into, the prospects are, for the most part, completely unknown to the population at large, but at the very least, they're trying to market baseball a little better, and having the draft during the All-Star game break has made too much sense. That's one of the reasons why Major League Baseball seems to be pretty much number 3 in popularity now, behind football and obviously basketball. But in the draft, the Tigers had the 3rd overall pick, Greg, their 3rd straight year of a high pick. And this year they went with the riskiest type of prospect at the 1/3 pick. A right-handed high school pitcher, a prep pitcher. And this is where the controversy comes in, is that the top-rated shortstop on the board fell into their laps because Pittsburgh took a catcher who was thought to be was going to go in the mid-first round, and I believe, was it Texas, I think, went in another direction as well.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the Tigers had their pretty much pick of the litter. And this wasn't like the last couple years where there was a consensus college player who was at the top of the draft, like there was with Mize and Torkelson. This year it was more of a crapshoot, I guess is the best way to put it. Because there was most of the highest ranked players on the draft board were high school players, prep ball players. And obviously, the Tigers have a massive hole in the middle of the infield at shortstop. I mean, they're playing Zach Short, who, he is what he is. He's probably his ceiling is as a backup, a utility player, but at least he can play defense, which is most of the shortstops Tigers had recently can't even play that, even if they can't hit. So there's a giant hole at shortstop. And the Tigers fan base, so we need a shortstop, and then Marcelo Meyer, who was the top-rated high school shortstop, top-rated shortstop in the draft, fell into their laps, and Al Avila went with I don't know if you want to call it the smartest guy in the room kind of a move, but he went all in on his scouting and analytics, which they have reportedly bolstered massively over the past few years since Dave Dombrowski left. And they went on a high ceiling, high risk, hard throwing, high spin rate. I guess that's one of the new hashtag spin rate anymore.
Yeah.
Right-handed high school pitcher. And he only has a small sample size of 51 2/3 innings pitch in Jackson Jobe. So a team that has a fair amount of pitching, and a lot of it's starting to make it to the major leagues. I mean, they've had 3 essential rookies in their rotation right now in Mize, Skubal, and Manning. They went for another high school pitcher in Jobe. And the issue being that even though high school players are hard to project, it's easier to project a hitter than a pitcher.
Right.
And the highest failure rate of any kind of draft pick is a hard-throwing right-handed pitcher out of high school. And the Tigers went all in on the riskiest type of pick. This is the literal definition of high risk, high reward. No, this is high ceiling, low floor type of pick.
Right.
And I guess part of the strategy of this, Greg, was that they're hoping to get Jobe underslot because he was not expected, by underslot, I mean, there is a certain amount of salary that they are allowed to have at the 3rd overall pick. And if they had taken Meyer, he probably would have gotten every single bit of that allotment. But taking Jobe, they're hoping to get him a little cheaper. And then when the compensatory round arrived, when the Tigers hit the 32nd pick, they drafted right-handed University of Texas pitcher Ty Madden. He was considered the third or fourth best pitcher in the draft, but he fell due to some signability reasons and the thought that he may have difficulty getting a third pitch. But the Tigers figured now they can pay him over slot because they're paying under slot to Jobe. And if that's the strategy and if it works, Avila looks brilliant. If it doesn't, well, then we're talking about, Randy Smith type stuff where, he took a huge risk, it blew up in his face, and now there's a new GM. So even with the Tigers starting to show signs of life. And during all this, Greg, was fascinating, especially after the Jobe pick, is that the fan base literally lost their minds. They went nuts in anger. They were pissed beyond belief over taking a high school arm so high, though the Major League Baseball draft is by far the most unpredictable, hardest to project. And the fact that I cannot forget the fact that Meyer was a high school player too. And, he could be the next Derek Hill, who was drafted in the first round, and at 17, 18, and he's just now sniffing the big leagues at 24 years old or something like that. So I'm not going to get too upset over a major league draft because who the hell knows, I mean, Mike Trout was like the 26th pick overall, for Christ's sake. You just don't know if these young kids, and the fact that, I just can't get that worked up over a draft where no one, unless you're a scout, you work in the business, or you're absolutely insane and follow this stuff that closely, no one has ever seen this kid pitch. So, for all we know, the Tigers might be the smartest bunch in the room, and they decided to go with this guy. And the odds are he probably would have been picked, and he probably would have been picked fairly high because of the spin rate stuff, which is now the new hotness. Because he has a spin rate on his slider that is major league caliber. At least that's what we're being told. And I guess that was a theme with the Tigers draft when they took pitchers. They have high spin rate sliders, which I think a lot of that may fall into Chris Fetter, who is now their pitching coach.
Right.
That's the kind of pitcher he likes.
Right.
So I think some of this can also fall with the major league staff, obviously AJ Hinch, Chris Fetter, who I think have a little bit of say as to what kind of players they want to see coming up through the system. So I guess in the end, we have to trust Al Avila that he's doing the right, because he has had some pretty good drafts. But this is a risky one. This is a draft I think a guy makes when he is very confident in his scouting and analytics and does not feel pressure from the front office that he has to make a huge impact right away. So I think this is also a sign that Al Avila has no issues at all with the Ilitch family right now.
Right, and I'm like you. I'm not going to get terribly excited either about something like this. I guess I can't say I was really surprised by the backlash because the fan base, fan bases do that. And you're absolutely right about this high risk, high reward, high ceiling, low floor thing. You're 100% accurate on that. Yeah. One thing that maybe might play into this, Al, is you mentioned the shortstop. I think Meyer is his last name, or Mayer.
Yeah, Marcelo Meyer.
Is that it might mean that they are going to pursue a shortstop outside of the organization at the end of the year. Yeah, right. That's what I've been wanting them to do.
You've been harping on this big time online.
Yeah,
you have been.
I mentioned it again in my piece on AJ Hinch last week that it's time to be a real team now. It's time to start to get real players in here. We were talking a little while ago in the Pistons scenario about you can't keep flipping guys. It's the same thing here. You can't keep flipping. So, there's a bunch of really good shortstops available. I know they're not going to come cheap. I understand that, but sometimes there's only one really big contract on the books right now, and that's Miguel Cabrera's, and it's going to be on the books for another 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. So you're just going to have to bite the bullet on that one. You can't get rid of everything. They stripped They got rid of every big contract they could except for Cabrera's. So you just got to live with that one. So if these shortstops that are available, there's like 4 or 5 of them that are really, really good in free agency. I'd be disappointed if the Tigers didn't at least make a real heavy run at least one of these guys, because that is obviously – I don't want to hear anything about Zach Short. That is still a position that is sticks out to me like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I think like Willie Castro and Isaac Paredes.
Yeah, it's just not –
It's no.
No, it's not. That's not those kinds of guys are okay for the bench. They're good for reserves. They're not your starters. Not if you're serious about being a contender in this today's game. Right. You got to have a guy who this isn't Mark Belanger and guys like that where you could Don Kessinger, or you could have a guy bat 200.
Oh, that's a deep cut, Don Kessinger,
and play great defense. And that's not. We're not in that world anymore. So. These shortstops that are available, Al, would be at almost 100% improvement over what the Tigers have been fielding this year. And I understand Zach Short has done a couple of nice things since he's been up, but come on, let's be honest.
Right.
You need to bring a guy in, and at that position, if Zach Short ends up being a good player, great. But for right now, they need a bona fide shortstop. Among other things, obviously. Yeah. But that is one of the biggest goals to me.
That is the number one priority.
It's not just about offense. It's these guys defensively. You mentioned Castro, Goodrum. They played 1 million people there. Yeah. Nobody can field. None of them can field. That's the problem. Right. So it's not that they're just looking for offense at that position. They need somebody. They're looking for somebody who can catch the ball. Yeah. And that's part of it as well. So I'm not talking about bringing in a big sick no field guy. I'm talking about these shortstops that are available can also. I mean, obviously some play better defense than others, but they're all capable of being better defenders than what the Tigers have right now. Right. So that's what I'd like to see them do. Yeah. But back to the draft pick. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, the pick has been made, and we'll see what happens. The Tigers are at a point now in their rebuild where this is not whoever they were going to draft anyway was probably not going to be a big piece of the puzzle until 3 or 4 years down the road anyway. Right. And I think right now the Tigers are in a position where they can start to make some noise as soon as next year if they address some of these roster holes. What happened in Minnesota over the weekend was very disappointing. I mean, I know that they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway. Yeah. But they were on such a high. They were doing so well, and then they just had a horrible weekend in Minnesota where the bullpen just completely fell apart. Right. So there's a lot of things there's obviously they're a work in progress. There's no question about that. But like you said, they are less painful to watch. They are more they're more of a legitimate team now than they've ever been in the last 4 or 5 years. So keep it going, and by keep it going, I mean add pieces. Just like you said with the Pistons, you add. You're at the stage now where you add pieces. You don't get rid of pieces. So I don't know if you're going to touch on Jonathan Scope situation or not. It's another one where will they trade him? Will they not trade him at the July 31st deadline? Or when's the deadline now? They changed it, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe it's. Is it the end of this month? I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But they got rid of the second dedeadline. Where you had the non-waiver deadline.
Non-waiver deadline.
Yeah. You had the waiver and non-waiver deadline.
I personally would like to see them keep Scope myself because I think he likes it here. I think they can re-sign him. I don't know what you get back for him, Al, in a situation where whoever trades for him is essentially trading is a rental. And we all seen guys when you trade rentals, they almost never re-sign with the team they get traded to. When the Tigers traded Castellanos to the Cubs, as good as he was for the Cubs, they still didn't sign him. Yep. Not that they didn't try necessarily, but he signed somewhere. He went with the Reds.
Yep.
Because
he's now an all-star there.
These rentals almost never, for whatever reason, re-sign with the team that acquired them. They are literally rentals. They play out the string, and no matter how well they do and no matter how well the team does, they never sign. It's weird. Yeah. So if whoever's trading for Scope is trading for a guy that they're going to have for 2 months,
Yep.
With no guarantees if they're going to make the playoffs, necessarily guarantees to make the playoffs. But so what are you going to get back from such a team? What do you expect to ask someone to give you for scope,
right?
Knowing that team knows that they may not have scope in 2 months anyway.
Yeah.
So what is that team going to do? I mean, are they going to what kind of assets are they going to give you when they don't even know if they're going to be able to sign this guy or not either?
Yeah.
So the trade scope thing doesn't make much sense because I don't know what you're going to get back from for this guy, knowing that whoever trades for him is going to have him for 2 months.
Yeah, and that's where front offices have smartened up. They aren't giving away the prospect house just to get guys for a stretch run. And I just looked it up. Yeah, the trade deadline's in like 2 weeks, July 30th. And that is the only trade deadline. They got rid of that mid-August one, the one like, for example, or was it late August one actually, the one where Justin Verlander was traded at, for example. That one is no longer with us. But it's excuse me. But it's you hear fans, some fans say, let's trade scope and then re-sign him. That never happens either. I think
no, that doesn't happen either.
The only guy I think I remember that happened with is Aroldis Chapman with the Yankees.
Yeah,
but that never happens either. If you trade a guy, he's gone. So that scenario is ridiculous as well.
Right.
And that's the thing. When it comes to scope, I would have no problem giving him a 2 or 3 year deal. He's still under 30. Yeah. He's not going to be outrageously expensive, and he is an above league average player. You can't have superstars at their position, but he is a legit major league player with legit 20 home run power at a fairly important position at second base. I want him as a second base. I do not want him playing first base, even though that's what he's been playing a lot of.
Right.
It helps his first. It's nice that he can do it, but he doesn't do it very well. You can tell his footwork is all screwed up at first base. He doesn't always know where to throw the ball. As a former first baseman who played his whole career, because I was tall left-handed as a first baseman, you can tell when a first baseman doesn't know what he's doing out there. And he's learning the position at the big league level, which is always, it's a hard thing to do. Right. Science, if you want to sign scope, great. Put him at second base and then forget about the position for a few years. Right. And maybe hope that one of the guys that you have in the minors develops, so on and so forth. But if you sign scope, you solidified one of your positions that you have a hole at second base. So, but yeah.
And then if you sign the short, you get a big league shortstop in here. Now you've got that
that whole middle of the infield taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And it looks like the catcher. And it looks like the catcher position is settling down a little bit. So now you've got. They always say strength up the middle. So now you'd have the catcher's position settled. You'd have, especially with Dylan Dingler, who if he's as advertised,
right.
But even right now with Rogers, who's made immense improvement, and Haas
perfectly fine. Rogers is playing great defense. Haas has a lot of power, so Rogers has power. If there is one position in baseball where you can get away today with guys who aren't league average offensively, as a catcher.
Sure.
A guy like Rogers and Haas, give me a 680, 700 OPS and play good defense, you are set. And they were not getting anywhere near that with guys like Grayson Griner and Wilson Ramos. So, it's just that catcher seems to be in a far better position now. And plus, obviously, Dinkler, who was one of their top prospects. But, this kind of brings us into, where the Tigers stand right now. We've kind of been drifting into it. At the break, the Tigers are now no longer a historically bad team, but they aren't a good one yet either. Because as you mentioned, the wheels came off this past weekend in Minnesota. But at the break, they are 9 games under 500 at 11 games under at 40-51. Third in the Central, 15 games out of first. That's kind of what we expected. But after that horrible start, 8-19 April, I think that at one point they were like 9-20 something or other. They were bad. They are a 500 team since that stretch. They are 32-32. I think a lot of it does have to do the schedule eased up. There's a lot of bad teams in baseball. We've talked about this in the past. A lot of teams tanking. I think the majority of the American League Central is right now, other than the White Sox. But thanks to injuries and a bad bullpen, the wheels, as you mentioned, came off in Minnesota. They lost a 4-game series to the Twins, were swept, and that kind of took the shine off a little bit. But I think it also was a bit of a slap in the face of realism. This is still not a good team yet. They're playing.
Right.
They're not as bad as they were at the start, but they're not as good as they had played over the past few weeks either. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. But there's a lot of reasons for encouragement. Mize and Schoolboy are in the rotation and pitching very effectively. I mean, there was talk Casey Mize would be their all-star. Obviously, it ended up being Soto, but who actually pitched last night. But Mize was in. Even though everybody has to have at least one player on the team, Mize would have been. It wouldn't have been a Robert Fick kind of pick, if you know what I'm saying. Akil Baddoo is probably the Tigers' best offensive player if you look at the numbers. He's one of the few guys with an over 800 OPS, and we're this deep into the season. If you had told me that, even after his first week where he looked like Babe Ruth, if you would have told me, okay, at the break he's still going to be doing, he's got an over 800 OPS, he's an aggressive base runner, plays decent defense, and does not look overwhelmed at the plate, even though he is still, right now, he's best used as the strong side of a platoon because against left-handers he's still kind of lost. But you can see that he is not overwhelmed at this level, which is absolutely amazing for a guy who's never played above single A.
Right.
So he looks like he could be a fixture for this team. As you mentioned, Haas and Rogers have solidified catcher. They at least have a shortstop and short who can play defensively for the most part, even though he is not the future there. At least they decided that we can't keep rolling guys at shortstop who can't hit and can't field. At least put a guy out there who can field.
Right, exactly.
Derek Hill and Daz Cameron showed flashes of talent. Hill looked like one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball. A little time we got to sell him. He actually got hurt making a spectacular catch at the wall. And right. Daz Cameron looks like there still might be something there. He looked like he at least belonged. We don't know if these guys are starters or if they're fourth outfielders, but at the very least, we're seeing signs that they belong. Obviously, Torkelson and Riley Green are absolutely raking at Double-A Erie. They look like they're both maybe a year plus away at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And all this is significant progress. It looks like they made. Candelario looks like at the very least he's a league average third baseman, which is a plus at that position. Right. The rotation looks like it could be the strength of this team going forward, even though there's a lot of signs like with the injuries the team has building up in the rotation, right? That's one of the reasons Manning got called up, because there's so many injuries in the rotation right now. And the bullpen has pieces, but overall is still not very good. And again, beset with injuries, specifically with Michael Fulmer. So, but at the very least, Greg, I think we're starting to see the progress we've been hoping to see for the past couple of seasons. And we're starting to see them be a little more aggressive with the prospects and bringing them up and just say, okay, now's the time. You got to start playing, show us stuff, specifically a guy like Rogers. I mean, that was one of the big topics of spring training that came out, is that they essentially, A.J. Hinch essentially told Rogers, you are 26 years old. You are no longer a prospect.
Right.
You need to be able to show you can play. Right. And he's doing that. I mean, he had a huge home run in Minnesota.
Yeah.
To give them a lead in the ninth inning, he hit a grand slam.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course the bullpen proceeded to blow that game, but still. Right. But regardless of all that, the Tigers, I'm actually for the first time in a long time encouraged by what I'm seeing from the Tigers. But as you keep harping, and what you were correct on harping on, this is all great. It's awesome, but the Tigers, for the last couple of years, Chris Ilitch has said, I will spend when the time is right. The time is right. This offseason, the time is right. The next couple offseasons, the time is right. And obviously, I think the first thing they need to do, they need an outfielder. They desperately need a shortstop. Well, they need up the middle specifically. They need shortstop, second baseman, whoever that might be. Could be Scope.
Right.
We still don't know who's going to be the future center fielder of this team.
Right.
If Cameron or Hill are going to work out. And they need a couple of impact bats. It could be great if Torkelson and Green are those impact bats, but there's no guarantees right now. They need an impact bat free agency that could very easily be the shortstop you're talking about if they get a Correa or a Story or someone like that. But they need an impact bat.
They could use a corner outfielder with some thump. They could use.
Yeah, I remember when that was going to be. Was it Christian
Stewart?
Stewart.
Gosh, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that sailed. Or Jacoby Jones.
They need some bullpen. They still need some bullpen. Yeah, they still need some bullpen pieces. They're obviously, like I said,
pieces for decades. I think
they are a work in progress.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. But after that brutal 9-24 start, they do look like they're back on schedule.
Yeah.
In terms of like winning 70 to 74 games.
Right. Exactly.
Which is where I kind of thought they would be.
Yeah.
And then take the leap from 70 to 74 wins to maybe mid 80s. Which I think they can do.
Right.
If they add the right pieces. Now you look at the division. Now you mentioned at the top of the discussion. Everybody's sinking.
Yeah.
The Indians obviously are no longer the Indians. I mean, they're not the Indians of old. They're a shell of their former selves. Right. The White Sox, good on them. They did it the right way. They built with youth,
yep.
And they are now without question the best team in the division. But there's a lot of opportunity here, Al, for the Tigers to make a move. This is not a division this is not the American League East.
Right.
Whereas the Red Sox and the Rays and the Yankees and the Jays, this is the White Sox and everybody else, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity for the Tigers to not just make a move upward in their rebuild, but to actually make a move in their division. I mean, these Twins, it's so weird about the Twins. If you look at if you plot out the Twins on a graph, the last, 7, 8, 9 years,
right.
It's literally it's like an EKG.
Yeah.
They're up, they're down. They're up. There's no consistency at that organization. They'll win 85 games one year and 65 the next. Go check it out. Ever since 2015, right. they just you can't count on them. Next year they may run out and win 90 games. I can never predict the Twins. I never know what you're going to get. But that being said, the Royals are obviously scuffling. Like I said, the Indians are not what they used to be. So I think the Tigers have an opportunity now in the division to make some hay if they make the right decisions and they add the right pieces. I know other teams are probably saying the same thing in that division, but the Tigers are unlike some of the other teams in the division, have, I think, some younger, more exciting people coming through the pipeline. Yeah. But they have to augment that with – and here's the other thing I've said, Al, about this adding people. Isn't just me wanting to spend other people's money. There's something to be said for – and we talked about with Killing Hayes and being the Scottie Pippen to Cade Cunningham's Michael Jordan. There's something to be said for augmenting – you mentioned we talked about Torkelson and Green and Dingler and other young kids that are on the roster or could be on the roster. They need support. They need other big league people around them, big league bats, big league gloves that can kind of settle things down and kind of take the pressure off these. They're going to bring up Torkelson and Green. I don't know if they'll bring them up in September this year or not. I have no idea. But whenever they bring these guys up, there's going to be immense excitement and pressure and all sorts of things that goes with it, which is good. But just think how much less imposing that will be for those guys if they can look around and see some all-stars that have been all-stars on the big league level surrounding them in that clubhouse. And I'm not just talking about Cabrera. Other people from outside the organization who they bring in to kind of augment these younger kids coming up. Yeah. Think about when the Tigers in the mid 2000s, when they brought in people like Ordonez and Guillen and Polanco to kind of settle things down for the Monroes and the people like that who needed Thames, people like that who needed that support around them. Yep. And they did that with the pitching. They brought in Kenny Rogers. They brought in some other, Todd Jones. They brought in some veteran guys to kind of settle down, the staff. Right. And so I think that's what you have to do here is not just rely and say, okay, hey, we got these shiny new kids, Torkelson and Green and Dingler, and away you go, and let's see what happens. They need help. They need other guys in that clubhouse and in the lineup to take some pressure off, and so they're not. Baseball is such a difficult game to begin with. It's so much about confidence, maybe more so than any of the other professional team sports, because it's so individual. It's so you're at the plate by yourself. You're not at the plate with 5 other guys. You're at the plate by yourself. And when you're struggling, you're struggling. And there's nothing. Nobody can bail you out. When you're in the batter's box, and every time you go up to the batter's box, it seems like you're down 0-2 every count when you're going bad.
Right.
So but if you look around you and you see, and other guys are lifting you up, and you've got other bats in there. I just think there's that intangible that doesn't get talked about enough when you talk about bringing in people. It's not just to spend money, not just to make a splash. There is a reasoning behind why you add pieces like that, because it helps everybody. It benefits everyone.
Right. Yeah, it's obviously this is all still speculation at this point, but these are the type of the moves that I think we both believe the Tigers ownership needs to make. So, which the Pistons seem to be doing. Tom Gores, after flailing about for a decade, finally decided, now I need to, I need to build the team the right way. And now we'll see how he does going forward, with to get Cunningham and how they build around him, so on and so forth. But it looks like they have the right guy in place. I think with the Tigers, it's the jury's still out if Avila is the right guy in place. Now, it's starting, after that awful start and people were screaming for Avila's head, now the team doesn't look quite so bad. And, he might be onto something, we don't know, but I think we're both agreeing. This team is at the point now where enough of the guys are either up in the big leagues or close enough to the big leagues that you need to start adding those foundational pieces around them. As we saw over the years, where they got like Kenny Rogers and Pudge and Ordonez and Miguel Cabrera. And you made great points of guys like with Guillen and Polanco, a couple guys I think were undervalued, or who were undervalued and were all-star caliber players at the Tigers. And they got them for essentially songs. So the jury's still out. If Avila is able to, because I think we've seen with Al Avila that he seems to be good at identifying young talent. Drafting. We've seen it in Rule 5. He's actually found usable Rule 5 pieces. And a lot of teams have not been able to do that. It's the major league moves which have not panned out. The free agent signings, the trades at the major league level. So hopefully that'll change, because the Tigers are ultimately going to have to trade some of these arms. Not every one of them is going to end up in the rotation. And there's still guys like we hadn't even mentioned, like Alex Faedo, Joey Wentz, guys like that, who are thought to have rotation level talent. And some of these guys will either end up in the bullpen, some of these guys will be traded, but we're going to start seeing moves on the 40-man rotation, the 40-man roster, where some of these guys, it's time to move on from like they have with like Jacoby Jones and Christian Stewart. So it's at the very least, Greg, I am kind of looking forward to the second half of the season. Like I said, I'm not expecting this team to make a run at the wild card or anything like that, but I am expecting to see more of the young players. I'm expecting to see, even though we're going to be limited, like Skubal and Maya they're going to watch their innings. They're probably going to go 3 innings at a shot, things like that. But we're going to see talented young players at the big league level, and we have not seen that in quite some time in Detroit. So that'll be fun. All right. Now, one thing before we wrap up, I think I forgot to add this in the show notes because it happened. I wrote these notes early yesterday, and this news broke later in the day. But you remember the angst in this city about a decade ago when the Wings failed to sign? Was it Zach Parise and Ryan Suter? Yeah, and they both went as a pair to the Minnesota Wild. 13-year contracts, $98 million. Yep. Well, late yesterday, the news came out that the Wild are buying out the last 4 years of their contracts. Yep. And the cap hits are absolutely monstrous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like crazy. I brought it up here. It's going to cost the Minnesota Wild $12.8 million in salary cap space next year. $14.8 million in 23-24 and 24-25, and then they're still going to be on the books till 28-29 at just under $1 million. Oh my God! Remember, and I think I was probably on that bandwagon too. Oh, we need to get these guys. And the thing is, it might have extended their playoff window another year or two, possibly.
Right.
Maybe, Datsuk stays around a year or two longer. Zetterberg tries to extend his career. Yeah. But I think the Wild knew, much like the Tigers knew, that the last few years of these contracts, like the Tigers knew of Cabrera, that the last few years of the Parise and Suter contracts are going to be painful. I don't think they expect it to be this painful. Right. Now, I guess this shows why, people wanted Yzerman to do a bunch of buyouts. Steve Yzerman to do it like, Franz Nielsen being the main one. But now Nielsen's in the last year of his deal, finally.
Right.
And so, the Wings, they made some small buyouts here and there. Yeah. But the giant contracts, they managed to stay away, specifically Nielsen's. Right. And just their cap is starting to get in line with what they would hope so they can start making moves. Right. The Wild, just because they wanted to open up a couple of roster spots and they had some guys they wanted to protect, because I believe both these players also have either no movement clauses of some sort as well, so they would have had to have been protected.
Right.
They decided to, so they could open up, I think they're opening up like a couple million in cap space by getting rid of these guys and opening up 2 roster spaces, which was, I think, the more important thing for them. But now they are absolutely good. They're going, in a couple years, they are going to be in such cap hell, I can't imagine what they're going to be able to do to maneuver around these giant cap hits. This is, to be on the hook for, to be on the cap for essentially a decade, to be on the cap, after they've moved on from that is absolutely bonkers. And I would hate to think now, what position the Wings would be in if they had both these players on their roster, like the fan base so desperately wanted back in 2012. And here we are, almost a decade later. And both these guys are in their late 30s, and the Wild are absolutely going to choke on their salaries just to move on for them. It's absolutely.
And it's not like the Wild got a lot out of that, Al.
No, they never won a cup.
It's not like not only did they not win a cup, they didn't really do anything in the playoffs. It wasn't like they made a bunch of deep runs and got to the finals.
That was it. They made.
They were. I mean, they really didn't for what they expended. They really didn't get much back.
Right.
I know. First of all, when I read that as well, and the first thing was I couldn't believe it was 9 years ago. That was like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
But that is a cautionary tale for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
They were not the Wild. I mean, I guess you got to give them some credit for doing it. They made it. They did open up the pocketbook, and both of those players at the time were among the best at their respective positions. Right. But it's goodness gracious, that's just really tough to swallow. And I guess Bill Guerin, who's the GM over there, I guess he should be. I'm not sure if you laud a guy for doing that.
He's gutty. I'll give him that.
I mean, we'll see. That's
But I guess a cautionary tale is the best way to put it, because I have no problem giving. It's not about the amount of money. It's always about the term,
the length. Sure,
the length of the deal.
Yep.
And if give these guys. Give these guys crazy money. Just don't give them crazy money until they're 38, 39, 40 years old. And obviously the Tigers are learning that lesson with Miguel Cabrera right now. Even though Cabrera, is looking, he's hitting the ball. He's just, he's a $30 million a year slap hitter right now. But at least he's getting on base again. But regardless of all that, this is a cautionary tale as to why you don't give double-digit year contracts anymore, unless you're signing a guy when he's 24 years old or something like that, But when you're signing a guy in his late 20s, these guys I think were like 28 or give or take when they were signed.
Yeah.
In that range, the first few years of the deal, it worked out great. They became at the very least a playoff team, made them relevant in their market, but that was it. Yeah. It never got them over the hump. And that would, if they had won a cup, I think people would have said, it was worth it. But now they're like, they're going to be in cap purgatory for for 5 to 10 years, and that is, oh my God! Could you picture if that had happened here in Detroit under with the previous regime? If they got, oh my God! So, all right, with that, now we got the Red Wings portion out of the way, the unscheduled Red Wings talk out of the way. I think it's time to wrap things up because I think Greg wants to go out and drive his Mercedes-Benz. So, so who's your jerk of the week?
You know what? I'm sure you read about Stephen A. Smith's borderline xenophobic rant against Shohei Ohtani, and of course, to Stephen A.'s credit, I guess he apologized.
It took him like 3 times.
You know, very disappointing for someone like Stephen A., who, as you know, has been, as he should be, has been very vocal about minorities being marginalized and so forth. That I remember I brought it up to Ray Scott when Ray was on the show about Stephen A.'s remarks about kind of maybe overreacting about the Celtics situation when Brad Stevens went from coach to GM, and Stephen A. thought that the minorities should have been open for that position. And Ray said, well, you know, gosh, kind of been there, done that. We've had black GMs in the past. He didn't seem to think, he says, I think Stephen A. wakes up just wanting to be pissed off about something.
Right.
So I think he made these comments about Ohtani, and they were not taken very well. And he was grilled, raked over the coals about it over social media. Guys like Jeff Passan, I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name, who are very well respected writers of baseball, called Stephen A. out. And not only called Stephen A. out, but called out the network in general. And so Stephen A. backtracked a little bit and acknowledged that, you know, I've been vocal for in support of minorities being marginalized, and here I am, you know, not in making a bad faith argument about Ohtani, and you know, I kind of went into the I have Asian friends thing, which but so whatever, he did apologize. It didn't take him that long to apologize, but that's because the backlash was so, because obviously he did it during All-Star Week, which made it even more prevalent in the news cycle. And I just thought it was Stephen A. being a little too much Stephen A. and just not really. I don't know what his motivation was, if he thought that people were going to get on board with him and agree with him, or not that should determine what you say, of course. But I don't know if he thought there would be less backlash about this than there was. But I appreciate his apology, but he should never have gone there to begin with. And we can argue till the cows come home about Ohtani's place in baseball, taking everything out of the equation, taking his ethnicity out of the equation in terms of where he is in the pantheon of baseball. But in this particular case, I thought Stephen A. was just completely out of line. So apology, yes, helped, but should never have done it to begin with. So my jerk of the week is Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that third apology was like ESPN saying, okay, you know, because the first couple were more of the, well, I'm sorry you're offended type of apology. Right. You know? Right. And I think then the suits, and probably Major League Baseball, because they're a rights holder of Major League Baseball, said, no, this is not an apology. You know, then the third time he actually apologized. But yeah, that's the worst thing ever happened to ESPN, Greg, is that they decided to triple down on debate shows. Because it leads to people like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless becoming very wealthy men for spewing essentially not having filters and just spewing out whatever topic you know. Sometimes if you, I think the only people actually watch those shows are either in airport bars or in gyms. Because who at home watches this crap if you're home during the day? I mean, God, I can't. It's worse sports talk radio. Sports talk radio is awful. Yeah, but you nailed it, Stephen A. Smith. It was a racist, xenophobic remark, and then it took 3 times to actually have a legit apology for it. And I thought we'd be past this stuff, but we're not. And that kind of leads me to my jerk of the week, which would be the fan base of English football, aka soccer.
Oh, gosh. Oh.
Yeah. Who, want to talk about racism, because the Euros 2020 against Italy went down to penalty kicks. And the 3 players who missed penalty kicks for England and led to their loss to Italy were black. And, well, you can guess where this is going.
Right.
The racism that spewed from the English fan base. And this has been an issue with the hooliganism and the and racism in European soccer anyway. But it gets completely – it really comes to the forefront in the big events like this. And those three players were absolutely – the things that were written about them online from the English fan base were vile. And I think that's an understatement.
Oh.
You know, and now – and then you get the people saying, well, you know, it's not that bad. You know, I think the best take us all this from a writer on The Athletic who said, it's okay to be black until you make a mistake.
Right.
And that, you know, they accept us until something happens, and then their true feelings come out.
Right.
You know, and you know, it's just more systemic racism we see in the world, and you know, it's not just in America where this stuff happens. It happens overseas as well. And in some ways, I think I won't say it's more accepted, but in sports, specifically soccer, it really seems to be an underlying issue, under a current that it's always there with European soccer. Right. How xenophobic, how racist it can be, and it came to the forefront during Euro 2020. And just, I feel so bad for those players. I really do.
Yep.
You know, and people say, oh, you know, they're now getting some support, but the racism isn't going away. Not what you see in Europe when it comes to the soccer fan bases. So my jerk of the week are English football fans.
Yep.
You know, I'm using the term football, but I'm like some soccer expert. But the English fan base, who
you're right,
showed their true colors when the team once again failed at the international level and decided to blame three black players for the issues when there are so many other reasons why they lost, not just because of those penalty kicks.
Of course,
racism is bad. We all know it, but we need to talk about it. And it's not going anywhere, not going away. And it always seems to bubble to the top with issues like this. Or we see it with Stephen A. Smith, you know, or I guess there was speaking of him, I read that he had another issue where he essentially made, I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but he completely butchered names of the Nigerian basketball players who beat the U.S. team in an exhibition basketball for the Olympics. And that came off as very xenophobic as well with him because he couldn't get the names correct of legit basketball players who just beat Team USA. So oh my God, Greg! Too bad we have to end this on such a down note after kind of a positive podcast. You know, we're talking about the Tigers and Pistons, and we've been a while. All right, with that, why don't you get out the thank yous and social media stuff, things like that?
Sure. We'll be back with you in a couple weeks if everything goes well. Maybe we'll have a guest, maybe we won't. We'll see. Follow us on Twitter at The Knee Jerks. Follow me on Twitter at Greg Eno. And I want to just thank my lovely wife Sharon for putting up with this nonsense. Thank you, Big Al, for making, in this case, Wednesday afternoons so gosh darn fun.
Yes, thank you, Greg, as well. Thank you for putting up for me blowing out of town unexpectedly. So we had to cancel the last podcast. It's kind of hard to do it from the cabin when our only internet is a hot spot. So, you know, and at the time we would have been recording, I was probably sitting by a fire drinking anyway. So, but as always, give a shout out to Linda, who is actually off right now. She would have been, if we were recording at normal time, she'd be working in the ER. So hopefully, I believe we're going to be headed up north soon. Anyway, to listen to the show. I know I sometimes forget to throw this out there, but I need to get better at that. You want to listen to the show, we're on the usual places: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music, Deezer, Radio Public, pretty much anywhere podcasts are aggregated. Just search The Knee Jerks, and you can find, subscribe, and listen to the show on the device of your choice. Don't forget to go to thekneejerks.net. That is our webpage where all the show notes will be, little comments. You can directly download the MP3 from that webpage as well. And other than that, I think it's time to wrap things up on this oddly timed podcast. I'm not used to this. Usually I record this podcast with a beer. I got coffee instead. So maybe I needed to put a little bourbon in it or something. I forgot to do that. But anyway, so let's wrap things up. So until this time, 2 weeks from now, we'll hopefully have some draft talk, and we'll be sneaking up on training camp for the Lions. Until then, this is Al Beaton saying good afternoon, good luck, and aloha.
Ciao, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.